When you're not able to afford a flagship device, it's not the end of the world. You can still find some very good smartphones around 2000 ringgit or even below that price point. So in this video, I will show you all the best mid-range smartphones below 2000 ringgit that you can get in Malaysia in 2022. So as usual, if you still haven't subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe and hit the notification bell. I'm hoping to reach at least 200 subscribers for this video, so I hope you can do that before we move on. The first smartphone will be Samsung Galaxy A72. This device runs on Qualcomm Snapdragon 720G chipset, which is an outdated processor. It can still keep up with some high-end games, but I will suggest using it for casual web browsing or for watching movies on Netflix. Because it has 6.7-inch Super AMOLED display with 90Hz refresh rate that comes with a resolution of 1080 by 2400 pixels. It's a very good display to use it at outdoor with 800 nits of brightness. This device doesn't support 5G network, and it is something that you need to consider before going for it. As for the cameras, it has 4 cameras at the back, which is 64 megapixel main lens, 8 megapixel telephoto lens with 3x optical zoom, 12 megapixel ultra wide angle lens and 5 megapixel macro lens. At the front of the device, there is a 32 megapixel selfie camera. These cameras are surprisingly so good for what you're paying for, especially for low light photography. The rear camera can record 4K at 30 fps and 1080p at 30 or 60 fps, and the front camera can record 4K at 30 fps and 1080p at 30 fps. The battery capacity is 5000 mAh, which is very big, but you will only get 25 watt fast charger. This is quite bad for the price range, but one of the good things is that you are getting earphone jack, and it has IP67 rating, so you can submerge this phone in 1 meter of water in 30 minutes. This device comes with 8GB of RAM and 256GB of storage that cost 1899 ringgit. That's the only available variant that you can find in Samsung store. But you can go for Poco F3, which is the second smartphone in my list. This device is quite special because it's using Qualcomm Snapdragon 870 chipset. It gives a flagship performance that can make you forget that you're using a mid-range smartphone. The most amazing part of Poco F3 is the 6.67-inch AMOLED display and 120Hz refresh rate. It comes with a resolution of 1080 by 2400 pixels, and it is a HDR10 Plus display with 1300 nits of peak brightness. Poco F3 supports 5G network, so you can have 2 5G connection in one device. This device has 3 rear cameras, which is 48 megapixel main lens, 8 megapixel ultra wide angle lens, 5 megapixel macro lens, and at the front you will get 20 megapixel selfie camera. The camera performance in Poco F3 is decent enough, but nowhere near as good as Samsung Galaxy A72. As for video recording, the rear camera can record 4K at 30 fps and 1080p at 30 or 60 fps, and the front camera can only record 1080p at 30 or 60 fps. The video quality can also be considered great for what you're paying for, but still not the best. The battery capacity is 4520 mAh, which is not so big, but you will get 33 watt fast charger. Unfortunately, there is no earphone jack and no IP rating in Poco F3. This device comes in 2 variants. One of them has 6GB of RAM and 128GB of storage that cost 1399 ringgit, and another variant has 8GB of RAM and 256GB of storage that cost 1699 ringgit. But right now Poco F3 is selling out fast with some great offers, so you can expect a lower price. The third smartphone will be Realme X70 Pro 5G. This device is the most expensive among all the phones in this list. It runs on MediaTek Dimensity 1000 Plus processor, and it has 5G network just like Poco F3. Realme X70 Pro 5G comes with 6.55-inch Super AMOLED display and 120Hz refresh rate with the resolution of 1080 by 2400 pixels. This device has 4 rear cameras, 64 megapixel main lens, 8 megapixel ultra wide angle lens, 2 megapixel macro lens, 2 megapixel depth sensor, and at the front you will get 32 megapixel selfie camera. As you can see, 2 megapixel macro lens and depth sensor will be useless, and I don't think Realme should have done that. So camera wise, I won't recommend this device, but the main lens and ultra wide angle lens are still convincing. As for video recording, it is quite different because the rear camera can record 4K at 30 or 60 fps and 1080p at 30 or 60 fps, and the front camera can record 1080p at 30 fps. Video recording wise, what Realme has done is quite convincing. The battery capacity is 4500 mAh, which is not big enough, but guess what, they will provide 65 watt fast charger, which is way too good for any phone under this price point. Unfortunately, there's no earphone jack and no IP rating in Realme X70 Pro 5G. So far as I know, there's only one variant available right now. It has 8GB of RAM and 256GB of storage that cost 1999 ringgit. These are the 3 phones that you can still buy in 2022. I may have missed out some other phones, so please don't hesitate to comment down below if you have any suggestions. Thank you for watching and see you in my next video.